What is going on, YouTube? So coming back with my final video of the day, and as promised, I'm going to move into my little NHL free agency wrap-up series. Like I said, I'm going to be doing 4 videos for this. One is going to be what I'm doing right now, which is my top 10 biggest signings for free agency, and then I'm going to do steals, and then I'm going to do most overpaid or most overrated, and then I'm also going to do power rankings after that, like the post-NHL draft, post-NHL free agency power rankings. Free agency is still going right now. There are still a few players left on the left out there, but not that many big ones. So let's go ahead and start with my honorable mentions. So I'm gonna do 5 honorable mentions, just 5 outside. So start with Troy Brouwer, former St. Louis Blue, now signing to the Calgary Flames for 4 years, $18 million. He's been big in the he was big in the playoffs this year. He's been big in the playoffs before, and again, the Calgary Flames, a younger team that I think could definitely use a push, like Troy Brouwer in the locker room. Calgary did not make the playoffs this past season, but did 2 years ago, and I think having that veteran presence in the locker room, if they do get back to the playoffs, will be huge for them this coming season. Next one is Brian Campbell, 1 year, $2 million to the Chicago Blackhawks, and this is one of the best value signings of free agency. There's no doubt about that. I mean, Brian Campbell, I'd say, should have been around $4.5 million in my opinion, maybe a little bit less, but again, Chicago adds a little bit of depth when they already had salary cap issues, and they get one of their former defensemen that I still think has a lot of juice left in the tank. Next one, James Reimer to the Florida Panthers, 5 years, $17 million. Reimer's a good goalie. I believe he got to the Stanley Cup Finals this year with the Sharks. So, the Florida Panthers get a backup for Luongo. I think it's a good move. Next one is one of my favorite signings. I announced that in actually the only free agency video I did for hockey, and it is Alexander Radulov to the Montreal Canadiens, 1 year, or $5.75 million. Comes over from Europe, or comes back over from Europe for the first time since 2011, 2012, and as long as he stays behaved in the NHL, stays consistent, he's one of the better scorers in the NHL, and one of my favorite players to watch, and then also one of the best guys in the shootout that you can possibly find. Last one of my honorable mentions is Jason Demers. Went to the Florida Panthers, 5 years, $22.5 million. This was announced on really the second big day of NHL free agency. And, the Panthers made some big splashes in free agency this year, bolstering their defense. This is a team that did really well this past season. I'm thinking the divisions are old, but, this is a team that moving forward can be a very solid squad. You have big hopes for Jonathan Huberdeau, Jaromir Jagr, if he can produce the same way he did last year. Luongo solid in goal. I like the direction the team's headed in. So moving to the top 10, and at number 10 I got Frans Nielsen, headed to the Detroit Red Wings for 6 years, $31.5 million. The thing with this is I think they overpaid a little bit. Frans Nielsen not addressing the biggest area of need for the Red Wings. At the same time, they can add some depth to a team that needs it. A team that got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs, and I think a team that's just trying to find a new direction with the aging Datsuk and Zetterberg. So at number 9, I got Eriksson Staal going to the Minnesota Wild from the New York Rangers for 3 years, $10.5 million. So Eriksson Staal had a wild ride last year, or this past season, I'd say even in the last 4 or 5 months after getting traded from the Hurricanes, where he'd been for his entire career. Over to the Rangers, didn't produce too much, and now he's with the Wild. Apparently, there's an article that said Zach Parise recruited him there. So, in my opinion, I think it's a good signing because, the Wild seem to be a place to kind of resurrect, veterans dying out careers. Maybe it works. It's a complete change of scenery for Staal, or maybe he's just completely done. We'll see. Number 8, I got Mikkel Boedker going to the San Jose Sharks, 4 years, $16 million. This was also in my last free agency video, and I really like this move. The Sharks add scoring when they really didn't need to, and a little bit of youth at that. Boedker, 50-point-a-year type guy, and for the price, really wasn't a bad signing. So next one, Andrew Ladd, 7 years, $38.5 million to the New York Islanders. Now the big thing about this was they pretty much traded Ladd for Okposo, and Ladd's a little bit older, maybe not as high a scorer anymore. Two very similar players production wise, and in just value, but it seemed like they should have just re-signed Okposo and stayed with him. So next one is Kyle Okposo, 7 years, $42 million to the Buffalo Sabres. This is a Sabres team, like I said, that's headed in the right direction. They got Jack Eichel. Seems like that is the direction of their franchise. Ryan O'Reilly last offseason, and it seems like they're really building up talent to be able to make a run at the East here soon. They've been so bad for so long now. Loui Eriksson at number 5, 6 years, $36 million to the Vancouver Canucks. I believe former Boston Bruin. Good. I think it's a decent move. It depends on really if the Canucks are trying to rebuild or not. I'm not a huge Canucks fan. I'm not entirely aware if they're trying to rebuild or just trying to make a push toward the playoffs. But getting a little bit of a scoring boost, Loui Eriksson, one of the better scoring free agents available in this round of free agency. So if they are trying to make a push towards the playoffs this year, which I don't see why they wouldn't be, then good move. Number 4, this one wasn't just a straight up free agent signing. It was actually kind of like a sign and trade. But Keith Yandle once again to the Florida Panthers for 7 years, $44.45 million. Now, I put this a little bit lower. This could have been maybe number 2 on the list because Yandle is one of the best defensemen out there. And again, Florida Panthers just bolstering that defense. Good move. But again, it was more of a sign and trade, so that's why I didn't put it. I still wanted to include it up pretty high because technically it was still a free agent signing, I guess, and it still qualifies as it. So anyway, number 3, I got David Backes to the Boston Bruins, 5 years, $30 million. Now, Backes is on a little bit of a decline, and, the Bruins aren't going to get his best years. But, a Bruins team that seems like they can really make a push at a playoff, maybe not a deep playoff run, but at least a push at a playoff run next year. I believe they re-signed Torrey Krug. Let me see how much that was for. That was one of the bigger moves that I did not put on here. Yeah, he's extended 4 years, $21 million. So, it seems like they're really trying to make a push for the next couple of years. And, you probably get 2-3, decent years left out of David Backes. We'll see. So, in number 2, I got Milan Lucic, 7 years, $42 million to the Edmonton Oilers. Obviously, wasn't the biggest part of the Oilers offseason so far. Probably that Adam Larson-Taylor Hall trade was. But in effect, you bring in Milan Lucic and Adam Larson. They needed a top-end defenseman, and they got that in Adam Larson. And, even though you lost one of your best forwards, you do get a decent replacement. So I said this before, in effect, Milan Lucic and Adam Larson for Taylor Hall. That by itself is a pretty decent swap, a pretty even swap. And then first one is Steven Stamkos, 8 years, $68 million, back to the Lightning. I think it's really good for hockey for Stamkos to stay with the Lightning because the Lightning are one of those young teams right now that's making a push every single year and seems like they could win the cup in a year now. And Stamkos is probably the best player right in the middle of that foundation. They just re-signed Vasilevsky this offseason, so they got 2 goalies that could start for a lot of teams. And with Ben Bishop in goal, and you just gotta like their foundation, all the young players they got, man. They just re-signed Victor Hedman this offseason, and it seems like they're going to make a push at it for a while now. They got Stamkos locked up probably throughout his prime and even longer than that. And it's good to see players like that are, he was drafted first overall by the Lightning back in 2008. It's good to see players stay in one spot for a long time, especially in hockey where, it doesn't seem like free agency has taken as much of a turn I guess basketball has always kind of been this way, but it's really gotten bad really since the whole LeBron thing. But it's good that doesn't really happen in hockey. Stamkos could have pulled a KD, and if you're a basketball fan, you know what I'm talking about. If not, then just hear me out here. But he could have pulled a KD and just up and moved to that equivalent would have been the Pittsburgh Penguins. When it looked like every sense was he was staying with the Lightning. That's not even to the extent of what KD did. But again, if you're a basketball fan, you know what I'm talking about. Even if not, you probably still have heard about it. But that pretty much does it for this video. I'll be coming back tomorrow with my top 10 best value signings. And then also tomorrow we'll start my NBA free agency wrap up as well. So that's pretty much it. See ya.